These are aircraft that are on display outside. Tom, hold up. We're looking at a Lockheed Lodestar C-60A. It has two Wright R1820 radial engines producing 1,200 horsepower each. Speed 257 miles an hour. Range is 1,700 miles. We're looking at a Lockheed C-141C Starlifter, 4-engine. Cargo and troop carrying aircraft. The Starlifter has 4 Pratt & Whitney TF33-P7 turbofan engines that produce 20,250 pounds of thrust each. Maximum speed 500 miles an hour. Load either 200 troops, 150 paratroopers, 103 litters, and 14 seats, or 68,725 pounds of cargo. Range unlimited in flight with in-flight refueling. We're looking at a Northrop YC 125B Raider. This was to carry troops and or equipment, to operate from rough, short airfields, to be easily maintained aircraft. It has a fixed landing gear, does not retract. We're looking at a Fairchild-built C-119J flying boxcar. The range is 2,000 miles. The weight of this aircraft is 66,900 pounds max. Engines, 2 Wright 3350 compound. They have power recovery turbines that are driven by the exhaust gas that deliver 150 horses each on takeoff, and they're located 120 degrees apart on the radial engine. It will develop 3,500 horsepower each. Maximum speed of this aircraft, 290 miles an hour. This is the type of engine that I instructed when I was in the Air Force. We're looking at a Lockheed built AC-130A Spectre gunship. This would make big circles around the enemy, and they would shoot as they were turning to destroy all targets on the ground. The engines, there's 4 engines. They're Allison T56 A11 turboprops, each delivering 4,050 horsepower. The maximum speed is 380 miles an hour. The range is 2,500 miles, and the weight is 124,200 pounds max. We're looking at a C-17 cargo type aircraft. 4-engine with Pratt & Whitney 2040 engines. We're looking at a EC-135, modified version of a civilian 707. It has Pratt & Whitney TF-33 engines, and the 707 had JT3D type engines, which were basically the same engine. NASA and the Defense Department needed a mobile tracking and telemetry platform to support the Apollo space program, and this was the aircraft. This is a shot of all the buildings here at Wright Patterson Air Force Base, the U.S. Air Force Museum. Here's an F-15 with 2 Pratt & Whitney engines, F-100 engines, parked outside. Here's a close-up view of an F-15. We're seeing a simulator that the people that come here go in and try and fly it. Today is August the 6th, 2014. This is the R&D hangar at Wright Patterson Air Force Base. All kinds of engines on the side. We're looking at the XV-3, the world's first successful tilt-rotor aircraft. made by Bell. Here's one of the pods that has a vertical shaft for the rotor blades. It has one on each side of the aircraft. We're looking at the P-75A Eagle. Multi-bladed engine. This airplane was tested in 1942. It had a Allison V3420 engine, which produced 2,885 horsepower. This airplane could go at the time 404 miles an hour. We're looking at an aircraft called Tacit Blue. It was built to test the advantages in stealth technology. It had two Garrett ATF 3-6 high bypass turbofan engines. It cost at the time $165 million. This airplane could go 287 miles an hour. Here's a Northrop X-4. It had two Westinghouse XJ30 turbofan engines of 1,600 pounds thrust. One person flew this aircraft. Here's a YF-120 engine that General Electric built. And it goes in the YF-23 Northrop McDonnell Douglas aircraft. We're looking at the intake. We're looking at the AT-F-16. This was a highly modified research aircraft before they produced today's F-16s. Here we're looking at an F-107A, North American. Built this aircraft. It has a Pratt & Whitney J75, which produced 23,500 pounds of thrust with afterburner. The cost of this aircraft is $30 million plus. We're looking at a total in-flight simulator. They use this for research and development. It had two Allison 501-D22G engines, which produce 4,368 horsepower each. We're looking at a North American X-15A-2. This aircraft was powered by a reaction motors. XLR-99 rocket of over 50,000 pounds of thrust. Max speed was 4,520 miles an hour. Max altitude was 354,000 feet, unofficial record. We're looking at the Bell X-1B. Very thin wings. This aircraft was powered by reaction motors. XLR-11-RM-5. 6,000 pounds of thrust. This is the inside of the cockpit of the North American XB-70 Valkyrie. It was powered by 6 General Electric YJ-93S. Each engine produced 30,000 pounds of thrust with afterburner. We're looking at the front part of a Valkyrie hanging from the ceiling. Very large and long aircraft. We're looking at a cutaway version of the GE J-31 turbojet. Here's the intake, the compressor area, and the accessory section, generator and starter. We're looking at a Lockheed built YF-12A. Looking at one of the engines. This aircraft was powered by 2 Pratt & Whitney J58s of 32,000 pounds of thrust, each with afterburners. We're looking at an Allison V3420 engine and drivetrain for the P-75A. This is a 24-cylinder liquid-cooled double V with a gear-driven supercharger and exhaust-driven turbo supercharger. And these drive shafts ran the length of the aircraft, the main gearbox to drive the propeller. We're looking at a North American F-100D Super Sabre. This aircraft was part of the Air Force Thunderbird demonstration team. The engine is one Pratt & Whitney J57 of 16,000 pounds of thrust. We're looking at a DC-6 type aircraft that was built by Douglas for Harry Truman. Four engines, Pratt & Whitney 2800 engines. We're looking at United States of America 707 type aircraft, and this was President Kennedy's Air Force One, and this is the aircraft that brought his body back from Dallas, Texas. And we're looking at the aircraft that FDR used during the war. He had a special elevator built to take his wheelchair up into the aircraft itself. And here is the elevator entrance. Here is the front of the aircraft. This is a Sikorsky built helicopter. This is the first helicopter that I worked on in Japan, and the first helicopter that I flew on in Japan. The engine is mounted in front. It's a piston type engine. The pilot of helicopters fly the helicopter from the right side. We're looking at the right hand side of the helicopter. There's the entrance door. Have clamshell type doors that pull forward and cover the engine. And there's the pilot's position on the right hand side. We're looking at a North American B-45C. It's a 4-engine bomber. This aircraft has 4 General Electric engines, designated J47s, which produce 6,000 pounds of thrust each. Maximum speed of this aircraft is 570 miles an hour. We're looking at a World War II type trainer. The pilot and the trainee sat in tandem. We're looking at the left side of the T6 trainer. We're looking at Lockheed F-94A Starfire. It has machine guns mounted in the nose. It's a 2-place aircraft with fuel tanks on the tips of the wings. Maximum speed for this aircraft was 630 miles an hour, The range was 930 miles. The engine that powered this aircraft was an Allison J33, which produced 6,000 pounds of thrust with afterburner. We're looking at an F-84E made by Republic Aircraft Company, Long Island, New York. The nickname was a Thunderjet. This also had fuel tanks on the tips of the wings. This aircraft had an Allison J35, which produced 4,900 pounds of thrust. Maximum speed of this aircraft is 620 miles an hour. We're looking at a Douglas B-26C Invader. This is a World War II type of bomber used in the Second World War and in Korea. Two-engine, powered by a Pratt & Whitney 2800 engine. And the bomb bay doors are open. And here's the nose art. We're looking at a MiG-15 used in the Korean War. The MiG was powered by a Rolls-Royce Nene type engine. Produced 6,000 pounds of thrust. This airplane could go 670 miles an hour. We're looking at an F-86. Fuel tank under the wing for extended flight. This is the intake. Three more gun positions on the right hand side. The F-86A was powered by a General Electric J47. It had 5,200 pounds of thrust. Maximum speed for this aircraft was 685 miles an hour. We're looking at a North American made F-82G twin Mustang. Here's where one pilot sat. And here's where the other pilot sat. The engines on this twin Mustang were two Allison V1710s, each producing 1,600 horsepower each. They are rebuilding a twin Mustang in Douglas, Georgia. This aircraft had counter-rotating props to control an even flight. We're looking at an F-80 Shooting Star, built by Lockheed. The engine that powered this aircraft was an Allison J33, which produced 5,400 pounds of thrust. The range of this aircraft is 1,090 miles. The maximum speed was 580 miles an hour. We're looking at an F-22 Raptor. The Raptor has two Pratt & Whitney F119-100 turbofan engines, 35,000 pounds thrust, each with afterburners. Maximum speed Mach 2. We're looking at an F-89, and the engine that powers it is next to it, with J35A. Thrust of the engine 5,600. It boosts to 7,400 pounds with afterburner. This is a Snark SM-62 made by Northrop. This is a launching profile. This is a launching platform. This is a pilotless nuclear missile. This was powered by Pratt & Whitney J57 jet engine, 10,500 pounds of thrust, and two Aerojet General solid propellant booster rockets of 130,000 pounds thrust each. There's the right side. We're looking at an Avro CF-100 Canuck. The all-weather CF-100 was the only Canadian designed and Canadian built fighter. First flew in January 1950. Fuel tanks on the tip of the wing. Here's a model of a B-36, 6-engine pusher type. And this is a real B-36. As you can see, the intake is on the leading edge of the wing where the engines were aft of the wing, called pusher. Had 6 4360 Pratt & Whitney engines, piston engines, with 28 cylinders each. We're looking at the outer portion of the wing of a B-36. It had 2 jet engines mounted for extra thrust. So they had a total of 10 engines on this aircraft. We're looking at what they call a twin Mustang, an F-82B, made by North American. The engines in Betty Joe are 2 Packard V1650s, horsepower 1,380 horsepower. Maximum speed was 482 miles an hour. Range 2,200 miles. In 1947, this aircraft flew from Hickam Field in Hawaii to LaGuardia. And the pilots took turns flying this aircraft. So they set a record for this type of aircraft. We're looking at the engines, the pusher type engines. 3-bladed prop on the B-36. We're looking at a B-50, 4-engine bomber. This is the last type of propeller-driven bombers delivered to the Air Force in 1947. 4-engine, the engine's designation 4360, 28 cylinders. We're looking at an HU-16B Albatross, made by the Grumman Aircraft Company. This aircraft was used for air-sea rescue. It was an amphibian. It could land on water and or land. We're looking at a C-97. This type aircraft was used to transport cargo and or personnel. This is a type of aircraft that I flew all the way back from Japan. It took us 28 hours in the air with refueling stops at Wake, Guam, Hawaii, and we finally landed at Travis. It's also used as a tanker, and designation for that would be a KC, in-flight refueling type aircraft. And the refueling aircraft had jet engines to augment the flying characteristics to keep up refueling with jet aircraft. We are looking at an F-86 stripped down version so you can see the internal parts of this aircraft. Right up front that is a radar antenna. The yellow tanks are oxygen tanks. Right after that are the barrels of the machine guns. Two on each side. And there are the machine guns, one mounted on top of the other, and then the feeding belts from the canisters to feed the machine guns. And the rest is a jet engine enclosed in the fuselage. The front of the wing has been opened up to see the different lines in electrical. The slats that you see there for increased maneuverability. We are looking at the right side of a KC-97, the engine and the jet engine that's mounted on the wing, underneath the wing. We're looking at the back side of the KC-97. There's a position for a person to sit in that pod, and he operates the boom that hooks up with a fighter aircraft to refuel it. And that boom is controlled from this position, that pod. You can see it has little wings. We're looking at a B-50 This is the B-58A Hustler. Four-engine bomber. We're looking at a BA-53 thermonuclear bomb that's carried on the B-58 Hustler. These are the two engines on the right side of the aircraft. We're looking at the tire for the XB-36, which was designed during World War II. Specifications call for two main landing gear wheels to be equipped for the large aircraft. The later design was a truck of four wheels, which was a great improvement for the aircraft. We're looking at a Mark 17 thermonuclear bomb carried on a B-36. This was in service from 1954 until 1957. We're looking at a Mark 6 nuclear bomb. We're looking at a Mark 53 thermonuclear bomb. This is the largest aerial camera called the Boston camera. It was manufactured for the U.S. Air Force by Boston University in 1951. We're looking at a J-47, which was developed by the General Electric Company. It was first flight tested in May of 1948. This engine went into the B-47s. We're looking at the front compressor. This compresses the air. Then it goes into the combustion chamber where the air and fuel is mixed and ignited. That's the turbine wheel, and this is where the hot exhaust gases come out for the thrust of the engine. We're looking at an RB-47 bomber. Six-engine bomber. This is an LR-87 rocket engine. It's liquid fuel rocket engine used on the Titan II. We're looking at the Apollo 15 command module, Endeavour. We're looking at the LR-79 rocket engine. Rocketdyne. There's a manufacturer. We're looking at F-102 fighter type aircraft. The engine that powered this aircraft was a Pratt & Whitney J57. It had 16,000 pounds of thrust. We're looking at a Gambit 1 KH-7 reconnaissance satellite. We're looking at a Gambit 3 KH-8 reconnaissance satellite. This is the second half of the unit. And we're looking at the rocket end of the engine that powers it up into space. This is a T-28 hanging from the ceiling. It took the place of a T-6 trainer in the early 50s. It had a 1300 Wright engine. We're looking at the front end of a B-2 bomber. That's the cockpit of the B-2, and this is the long wing of the B-2. Landing gear. The landing gear on the left side. And this is the landing gear on the right side. We're looking at an F-16A Fighting Falcon. It has one Pratt & Whitney F100 PW200 with 23,830 pounds of thrust with afterburner. We're looking at a Douglas C-133A Cargo Master. Has 4 turboprop engines. The engine is a Pratt & Whitney T-34s with 7,000 horsepower. We're looking at a J58 turbojet engine. It was developed in the late 1950s by Pratt & Whitney. They can take aircraft up to Mach 3 and at altitudes of more than 80,000 feet. This engine was designed to operate for extended periods using its afterburner. This is the exhaust, where all the thrust comes from. This is how an SR-71 is refueled with this model showing a McDonnell Douglas KC-10 refueling a Lockheed SR-71. And here is the SR-71A built by Lockheed aircraft. Has positions for 2 people. There's the engine on the left side. We're looking at a Hexagon KH-9 reconnaissance satellite. We're looking at a Hexagon KH-9 film return vehicle. There's a thruster at the back side here. We're looking at a Sikorsky MH-53M Pave Low 4. We're looking at a gun position. There's the engine on the left side, rotor head, we're looking at a fuel tank for extended range. And the tail rotor for directional stability. We're looking at the outside of the space shuttle. Here's a higher shot of the Sikorsky helicopter. Here's a shot of the F-111A. And it has an escape module. If the aircraft gets in trouble, the pilot uses the escape module to leave the aircraft. Here's an overall shot of this part of the museum from the space shuttle.
And they actually show it between them.
This whole shape is the size of the real test, classify sensors, detect enemy aircraft, etc., etc. It's a test bed now, so it's never put into orbit.
We're looking at an early morning satellite.
Yeah.
I think this is what makes it go, and it's out in space.
We're looking at the crew compartment trainer's middeck. Is where the astronauts train to carry out space experiments, eat and sleep. We're looking at the flight deck, the crew compartment, trainer's flight deck. Here's a close-up view of the F-111A aircraft. And there's the escape module. We're looking at a Boeing B-1B bomber.
Hey, Mom, look, look.
We're looking at the main landing gear and the intake for the engines. The aircraft has 4 General Electric F-101 turbofan engines with 30,000 plus pounds thrust, each with afterburner. This is a panoramic view of one of the hangars at the Air Force Museum. And the Air Force Museum is now closing down. It's time to go.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Air Force Museum galleries are now closed. Please make your way to the exit in the main lobby. The Air Force Museum gallery